What's up? What's up?
Welcome everybody to a special edition of the Lexit War Room. We have a special guest. He's a good friend of Lexit's. He's been a good friend of ours since I got started in social media. He's one of the people that I love to follow. He's his name says it all. The informed Anthony. He's boots on the ground. I've seen him in DC. I've seen him all over California from campaigning to new governors, new local officials. This guy has done it all. He's been all over the place, bro. Anthony Cabas, thank you for coming, bro. We appreciate it, and welcome to the Lexit War Room.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me, man. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, A-Rod. Thank you, Lexit, for what you guys are doing, and thank you for having me on, brothers. Appreciate it.
No problem, bro.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it. So, real quick, for everybody that doesn't know who you are, give a little bit of background. I know you've worked in different places that kind of put you closer to politics, and also worked on the border as well. So, give it a little background before we dig into some of this stuff.
Yeah, the way my platform kind of came to exist was 2005, 2006. I decided to sign up for the United States Coast Guard, which is Department of Homeland Security. We strictly work borders. So luckily I was able to work our nation's borders, specifically the one between San Diego and Tijuana, as a Spanish interpreter. And so my job, and our job there with the unit that I was with, basically we did anti-illegal immigration, anti-human trafficking, anti-drug smuggling. I've worked with, foreign countries, specifically Latin American countries, to help train their Coast Guard, to help train their Navy, obviously trying to combat the human trafficking and the drugs trafficking. And so I did that for a little bit over a decade, came back to my home state of California. I know a lot of people don't like California, but I personally love it here. And I always thought that it was worth fighting for.
Right.
My mother, she is an immigrant from Mexico. She came to California. It was home to us. It still is home to us. We have lots of family, friends here. And I was just, as soon as I came back, I started noticing, that California was not how I remembered it when I left back in 2005, when I first enrolled into the military. And I noticed there was a lot of homelessness. I noticed it was really dirty. I noticed that, a lot of trash in the streets and stuff. And so I guess it's just maybe things I never really picked up growing up, that now as an adult with 3 children, with my own family, I start paying attention to, because it's like, yo, man, like I got my family here with me, and there's like homeless everywhere, and people shooting up drugs out in the open,
Right.
It's just kind of crazy how it kind of took over. And so 2016 came around. Obviously, Donald Trump won. I wasn't the biggest fan at the time, not enough to get me to vote. I'm 33 years old. I had never really voted until 2018, and that's because of Donald Trump. When he ran in 2016 and he won, I just saw him as like this outsider, and I'm like, there's no way this guy who's not establishment is going to win. There's just no way, And so I got politically involved then because I saw the mess. I saw the lack of information and the misinformation wars that we're still fighting today. And I said, I need to create something to help combat. As a Latino, as a Hispanic, I'm bilingual. I speak English and Spanish. And then my experience as well at the border to kind of help people see why we do need someone like Donald Trump, why we need someone like this Republican that's tough on immigration, that's tough on border security, to lead the way, to bring the America first, right, message that won't necessarily benefit just one demographic group. It's going to benefit all of us, including us, immigrants and sons of immigrants. It's going to help us out as well. And that's how I got politically involved. I identified more as a conservative, even just growing up. I went to church. I was a Christian. I am still a Christian. And obviously my views, my morals, my values align way more with the Republican Party than it did with the Democratic Party, especially the Democratic Party of today, where it's just so progressive. And 2017, I came up with my online alias, the Conservative Latino. That's how mostly people know me, is by the
Right.
Conservative Latino. That was the platform that I built. But because the communists won in 2020, or they won,
Right.
I've had to rebrand myself because they were targeting my platform because I was the Conservative Latino. So now I go by Inform with Anthony, and surprise, surprise, no more shadow banning, at least as hard as it was under Conservative Latino. So yeah.
Well, bro, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I know for a while there, a lot of us were shadow banned. It seems kind of like they took the shadow ban on, but you know, like anything else, I feel like it's a little trick. They'll come back. But go ahead, bro, Jess.
Yeah, that's just like sounds like a familiar story. That's what made me get into politics too. I was just tired of the fake lies on the fake media. Like they motivated me to get involved. Like even Ricardo said, we weren't involved in all that, but just the fake media, just everything was going on. It caused us to get involved. Because I never thought I would be into politics or start a movement or none of like this, but just the left and the fake media and just all the globalist stuff that just made us get involved. But the question I want to talk to you about, because I know it's been blowing up all over the internet right now. Everybody's making cool memes and everything, but they got exposed today about the kids in cages and all of that. The pictures came out today. So I know you probably got a lot to say. I just want to get your thoughts on all that stuff that came out today, all the pictures. And Project Veritas did a video exposing it too. And then it's just crazy how it's just the silence is deafening from all the celebrities and all Hollywood. They ain't saying nothing, but they had a lot to say when it was Trump in there. So I just want all the Latinos to know, all the American Latinos to know you got played. Y'all got played thinking all that Trump, if you were all before, all anti-Trump, had a lot to say about Trump and all that, and you're quiet now, then you ain't got no credibility. But what's your thoughts?
No, yeah. Not surprised at all, brother. Not surprised at all. This is something that I think that as conservatives we have been screaming about for years, is the double standard. Under Trump, there was kids in cages, even though there was no photographic evidence that there were kids in cages, or that, he was separating families deliberately to separate these children. There was no picture evidence, there's no video evidence, but that is what the left's narrative was. You had the George Lopez's, you had the Alyssa Milanos, you had Paola Ramos, who is the daughter of Jorge Ramos, the most notorious and famous Spanish journalist there is in the Hispanic and Latino world, basically yelling to the four winds that Trump was a racist because of the way he was treating these migrants. And so now we have photos that have been released today showing similar or worse, right? So we have, I think that what makes it worse is that we're in the middle of a pandemic,
Right.
and now there's outbreaks of COVID-19 because Biden, the administration, had been promising, hey, once I'm elected, things are going to change. If you are an unaccompanied minor, we are going to accept you at the border. We're no longer going to turn you away. Right. So when people are hearing this message, if you are a foreign migrant or just a foreign family, you're going to risk your children and you're just going to send them up because it's like, hey, these guys are not turning away kids. Here's my kid. Maybe the circumstances are, hey, it's better than having them here. Well, we don't have really a good living situation, or the living situation is pretty scary or violent because of cartel wars, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and send my child up. And of course, the footage came out, and it's worse, like I said, because middle of the pandemic, and now these children are being placed with adults that are COVID-19 positive. They're only allowed to take showers once a week, and some facilities don't even have potable water for them to drink. Right? So where is the outrage now? This is see, the message for us conservatives have always been, we don't like the environment that the illegal immigration system creates, not at the border, not here in the US, where illegal immigration is basically used as modern day slavery for cheap labor, right? Cesar Chavez, right? He was like a big human rights guy for the Hispanic Latino movement. He was even against illegal immigration. Why? Because of the environment that it creates. You want $15 an hour, but you're basically fighting the illegal immigrants who will be willing to work for basically cents on the dollar. So you're not going to be able to advocate for $15 an hour when you have a fresh batch of foreigners willing to do the work for a lot less. They're not going to be unionized. You don't have to worry about them being unionized. You don't have to worry about them asking for livable wages. They just want a wage. That's all they want, right? Any wage is fine by them, And so those things need to be tackled. That's been our message, the last administration and this administration. But the message from the left in the previous administration was Trump is racist and Republicans are racist because of the living conditions of the migrants at the border. And now we see those same living conditions in the current administration, which is far worse because why? Because of the COVID-19 outbreaks. Once a week, they're allowed to shower and no potable water. And like you said, Jesse, nothing to be heard from the media, nothing to be heard from Joe Biden because he's hiding still, right? Nothing to be said from him.
That's why you don't want to answer questions.
Hiding Biden.
Hey, but yeah, right on, brother. Everything you said is right. But I just want to give a quick shout out to my UCLA Bruins. Made it to the Sweet 16. You know what I mean? That's all right. But you know what else I was going to tell you from everything you were saying? Not only that, I ain't going to say which outlet because I don't want to get hit, but even big tech were even hitting people when we were trying to do polls saying about kids in cages. They were hitting us saying, "Oh, they don't have kids in cages or whatever." You know what I mean? Even Anna Paulina, she did a post and it was saying about kids in cages and all that, and they hit it. That's what she should go and appeal that because now look at they're hitting. The big tech was censoring us when we said that Biden had kids in cages. They were hitting us. And look, and now it came out evidence he did. So that's why big tech, who do they think they are? They always try to, like, if they know it all, you don't know. You know what I'm saying? They don't know, but yet they hit us without even knowing the facts. And now look, it was found out that it was, they did have all that. But yet so many of us are shadow banned and got censored because of that. Even people got their pages deleted probably and everything. But go ahead, brother Ricardo.
Yeah, so I want to thank you, Anthony, for being with us. I mean, it's for first of all for your service to our country. Second of all, for being an example to a lot of us to follow those footsteps and not be intimidated, not be scared. I come from I was literally I grew up in a ranch. With my family. I posted earlier. And I'm hardcore Mexican, bro. I was wearing boots on Saturday night. Like, I have property in Mexico. I lived in Mexico. I went to school in Mexico. Like, there's so many things that I did. Like, I'm still very extremely involved in the Mexican culture. I'm probably more Mexican than some of the Mexicans you ever meet in your life that were born and live in Mexico. But the point is that I think a lot of people don't seem to understand that, when you just go with the flow with what they got going on, then we just fall in the trap. So my question to you, which is something that I find a little bit more intriguing, is obviously we know that big tech is backing up the left, and we know that. Like, it's not a surprise, and even if we question them, they're not going to change their theory. But my question to you is I was asking the guys, we were talking about the questions, but here's I'm going to go a little deeper because I really want to see what your perspective is. This is the first time I ever asked anybody this. What do you think? What do you at the end of the day, ruining our country, the country that liberals live in as well, and big tech lives in? What's their agenda behind ruining this country? Because that's exactly what they're doing. Like, what do you think the deeper agenda is? I mean, why ruin the country you live in? Where are they going to go after this? So that's my question to you. What do you think why do you think they're doing it? For what? Let's go past the media. Let's go past big tech. Let's go past that. What's the end goal for these people? What do you think that may be?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Good question as well. I've always said that I've never really felt like this is a battle of Republicans versus Democrats. I've always felt that this is just good versus evil. And I feel that the agenda is they're trying to normalize the degeneracy, sin, and the way of life that promotes divorce rates, that promotes pretty much disgusting things, anti-Christian things, anti-Western cultural things, because they know that that's the only way that they can keep us divided and them in control. So, I've always long said that I don't truly believe that neither Democrats or Republicans truly care
Right.
about the border crisis, because it's existed under both of them. But there was one man who was willing to step up to the plate and say, yo, man, this is done. We can't keep doing business as usual. And that was Donald Trump, with his good policies, shutting down the border, putting pressure on foreign countries, saying like, yo, you got to stop the caravans. You got to stop this. You got to stop that, or we're going to cease the money that we are sending over to your country. But as far as the people, they're out of touch with reality, man. These people consider themselves the white knights for the black community, for the brown community, Hispanics, Latinos, whatever. We're all Americans, right? We're all Americans. I kind of hate like that division that they've kind of created for us, but it's also like that they've controlled academia for so long. And it's that communist infiltration, which communism is just one name of many for Satanism, for evil, and the degenerate, disgusting agenda that they have for all of us. This is all it really is anti-Christianity. There is a curriculum, for example, that already passed here in California. It's supposed to push like ethics and teach people, in 4 specific categories: the Asian, the Black, the Latino or Chicano community, and the last one, I forget what it was, but even Hispanics no longer are going to be promoted. Why? Because Hispanics are descendants of Spaniards. Spaniards are considered colonizers, and Spaniards brought over Catholicism or Christ or Christendom into the West. So even Hispanics are now not being allowed to join into the multiculturalism studies, because it's too white, it's too European, and it's too Christian for people here in California. So this already passed in California. And again, this agenda serves one purpose only: to destroy families, to destroy marriages, to enslave both man and woman to their corporate jobs, while they send off their children to these indoctrination camps, aka public education. And that's why they hate platforms like this one. They hate that us Latinos and Hispanics are having these conversations, and they hate that we're spreading the real message that communism, leftism, progressivism, they all serve the same, modern day feminism, wokeism, every other kind of ism that you can basically think of. The main agenda, the driving factor is we reject your Western way of life. We reject Europeanism. We reject the Spaniards, and we reject the religion and the way of life that you guys bring onto us as conservatives, because it doesn't allow us to live the way we want. And the way they want to live is, love is love, regardless of gender or sex or even age now, right? Love is love. That's all that matters, right? And that's what they're promoting. They are normalizing it. And so to them, again, these people are out of touch. They think that, they graduated with their fancy diplomas and their gender studies and their Chicano studies, and they think they know that what the answer is, but they don't understand that there's a bigger force behind them, whether it be George Soros, whether it be other driving forces behind it that are driving that narrative. It was kind of like, and I'll kind of end this little rant right here, but when Occupy Wall Street started, it was basically the populist left and the populist right that said, hey, these banks are too big to fail. We keep bailing them out. They continue to drive communities to the ground, and they're enslaving all of us through these financial systems. And right around the time Occupy Wall Street came out, that's when the race wars started getting out of control, because they said, the attention is on us, the corporations and the banks that profit off of cheap labor, illegal immigration. Now we need to come up with something else. We need to get the Black community to fight the Latino community, and the Latino community to fight the white community, and the leftist liberal whites to fight the conservative whites. And we need to remind them that they should hate each other and not work together to get rid of the institutions which are harming our country since the early 1900s, and that is centralized banking, the banking system, usury, and the people funding not only race wars, but the degeneracy and the LGBT propaganda to continue to let the West fall, bro.
Wow, that's deep, man. I'm gonna be real honest with you. I looked deep into all this stuff, and I didn't. You just put it in simple terms as an anti-Christianity move.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're targeting. I didn't. I always wondered why. Right now, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. You gave me so much clarity when it comes down to that, and it makes sense because everything is Christianity against Christianity. So I really appreciate that, bro. You giving us some clarity on that because I'm gonna be honest with you. I needed it myself. I really wanted to know, but now that you're pointing it out, it's true. It makes a lot of sense. I appreciate that, bro. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So, well, bro, it's awesome because it leads into something I wanted to ask you real quick. Going back to before I ask you my question, I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, and I was texting them, was an Instagram follower, and I said, "Man, none of this makes sense." And she said, "That's why God makes sense." And to me, I stood back on a Sunday morning, got the Bible open. I thought to myself, it's right. When nothing makes sense, that's when only thing that makes sense is God. You know what I mean? And that's what they're trying to take us away from. So my question is this, bro. It's about racism. And this is what's crazy to me. Because they have now it's a hashtag Stop Asian Hate, right? And it was BLM, stand with BLM. And then it was Latinos Lives Matter. But it seems like every race is trying to be the loudest and the most important, trying to cancel somebody else. It's like certain groups are trying to cancel Latinos. Speedy Gonzalez, we're like, hey, we don't got a problem with them. We're trying to cancel other people. And to me, it's a way that they keep us divided. What do you think that we could do? I feel like we can't even post anything anymore, even if it's right. Because if it's a different skin color, we're being attacked, even though it's right. Should we continue to keep on posting these things? Because sometimes we see something, we're like, ooh, and it goes through our heads subconsciously. We're like, ooh, we look at our pages, we're like, ooh, I went after this race 100 different times. Should we stop even though it's wrong, or continue posting it and not and stay true to ourselves, even though there's a big cancel culture or just things that are canceling out other different cultures? Should we continue to keep on pressing the truth?
Yeah. That's a really good question, man. And this is something that a lot of people have, direct messaged me about. It's like the Bible says it itself, man, and you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. And I'm a heavy believer in that you should never censor yourself for what you believe you are fighting for if it is right and it is godly. I don't think there's anything wrong with pointing out statistics. I don't think there's anything wrong with pointing out that most of the assaults, for example, on the Asian community is by the Black community. There's nothing racist about that. It's just a fact, right? And that also helps destroy the narrative that the driving force behind Asian hate is Trump supporters, or calling it, the Chinese virus, or anything else where they're trying to push it like it's white supremacy. I think that it is our job, especially with the platforms that we have, to continue to spread the truth. This is something that I've told people back, maybe 2 or 3 months ago. In my anger, I kind of told people, if President Trump is being banned, then let's all just leave. But I've actually kind of rethought that and said, actually, on the contrary, we should actually all create our own profile on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, which is where the majority of people are. And then follow your favorite voices. Follow, if you are a Black conservative, follow, Officer Tatum and Candace Owens. If you are a Hispanic conservative, follow, Lexit. Follow, whoever else that, Ana Paulina, or Conservative Latina, or Wake Up with Linda, whoever your favorite conservative, and help spread that message, because people need to hear the truth. People often come to me and say, hey man, how can I share what you are saying with my family, because they just don't get it? And I'm like, have you tried just sharing the link to my video? And they're like, oh, like, no, like, I just, I'm scared because if they find out that, like, I'm conservative, how are they going to react? And I'm like, you can't be afraid of that. You can't be afraid of sharing. It's not just a conservative message, but a godly message. And godly message is anything truthful. So if me sharing a statistic is too offensive, then you need to rethink what kind of friends you have. And if your family doesn't love and support that you're being transparent and that you're fighting for what you believe in, then I'm sorry to say, but that's what we've been called to do as Christians. Is the world is not going to love us. We were not made as Christians to be loved by the world or accepted by the world or to live an easy life at all. If every single day is not a challenge, you're doing something wrong, you know? And of course, there's going to be great times. There's going to be good weeks. There's going to be good political years for us. You know, I think Trump, even though it was great for the most part, we still had to fight off the media and the misinformation and Black Lives Matter and these leftist organizations that were going after our churches, our statues, our culture. And so what I would say is never give in, brother. Even if you're banned, you know, I was banned on Twitter. I was able to make another Twitter. I was banned. My old Facebook page has been completely suppressed. No one can even follow my old page. So I made a new one today. We have to be persistent. We have to be relentless. No one is coming to save us. There's no other platforms that are really being created for Hispanics and Latinos. So we have Lexit to thank. We have, you know, other Hispanic and conservative platforms that we need to build. We have individual platforms, conservative Latino, conservative Latina, Inform with Anthony, A-Rod, you know, and Jesse Holguin's personal page. Those are the platforms that we have. And the only way that we're going to be able to spread the truth, which we should always do, and it doesn't matter if it sounds racist, because there's nothing racist about saying something that is true, in that 24% of attacks on Asians are done by white people, and 27% are done by the Black community, when the Black community is a much more less representational demographic in the U.S., because we're never going to be able to really address the problem that is not just Black on Black crime, not just Latino on Latino crime, not just Asian on Asian crime, until we start getting those statistics out. Because if not, the only narrative that's going to be out there, it's going to be whatever the left says. So if the only narrative that's left on the social media, because everyone's leaving the social media, it's going to be leftists and liberals controlling the narrative, because they're the only ones left. They're the only loud ones, and they're the only ones who supports basically saying that the Asian hate is being created by white supremacists, and which is not true at all. So A-Rod, my brother, and to anyone else out there listening, is I will always say, be relentless. If you're banned, create a new page. If you're a little bit scared of people finding out who you really are and you're scared to get fired, then create an alternative page. Make an alias for yourself. Create it, invite like-minded friends, and share. Statistics need to be out there. The truth needs to be out there, because people will change their mind. Just real quickly, I had a friend of mine who told me that her mother tuned in to my platform, and she was like a hardcore leftist, brother. She used to be like a Che Guevara sympathizer. She used to believe that Fidel Castro was a great leader. She tuned into my page, and I said, look, as long as your foundation is in God, then no matter how politically left or right Republicans or Democrats are, your foundation, if it's in God, you will always vote smartly, and you will always vote as a Christian and as conservatively as you can, because you're not going to be endorsing anyone that goes against God or Christianity.
Can't hear you, A-Rod. But I also want to switch it up a little bit, brother. I know you put it down a lot. You've been putting it down a lot on the subject I'm talking. You talked about it a little bit earlier about over here in LA, all the homelessness and all of that's going on. But I wanted to talk to you about the recall. It looks like the recall, Gavin Newsom's going to go through. I know we're all happy about, all of us right here from Cali. So I just want to get your thoughts on all what's going on with the recall and the new governor coming up and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we got the signatures, to recall Gavin Newsom. And I think that Yeah, it's obviously in part because there are a lot of Republicans tired with the one party rule in California. There's a lot of conservatives, there's a lot of people, but also because there's people waking up. There's people waking up to the
Do you think
Democratic
that?
agenda, the
I'm
one
sorry.
party rule,
I'm sorry.
and
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Anthony. Do you think that some Democrats are tired of it too?
oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. I personally, so when I used to be part of another organization, um, we hosted Recall Gavin Newsom, and we would teach people and we would inform people. We had independents, we had Democrats, everyone signed the recall. And I'll never forget, I talking to a lady. She was an African American lady, and she was a lifelong Democrat, and she signed to recall Gavin Newsom because she said that she had to retire early as a California educator because Gavin Newsom had basically said that they will be teaching sex ed and LGBT propaganda in elementary schools. Elementary schools. And she took a look at the stuff that they wanted her to teach in her elementary second grade class. And she's like, I can't do this. I'm not going to teach this to second graders. Like, this is not right. Like, and you're saying that we don't even need that the parents' consent so long as we frame it like this. So she's like, I can't do this. And her union basically came back to her and said, well, you either teach it or you're going to be fired or you're going to have to resign. And so she ended up resigning early. She was an older lady. She was, I believe, if I remember correctly, she was 62 years old. So I think she was already eligible, but the passion was still there. And you can tell that she was really, really sad, that she had to be, basically forced resign because of Ganism. So we had a lot of Democrats, independents, liberals, people that probably didn't even vote, but they were registered so that they can sign the recall. And they're just like, we're just tired of this guy. The high cost of living, the homelessness, the legalizing the drugs in California, rising, just costs all across the board. And so we had people from every political spectrum signing that recall. And I think that especially now with platforms like this one that are educating people, that are taking the time to bring out the statistics, to bring out the conservative message, a Christian message, and especially the way Gavin Newsom has been handling the California churches and small businesses, which usually tend to lean more conservatively because they're not that proud to have the highest taxes in the nation. And so I think that the churches, especially with them being forced closed by Gavin Newsom, while strip clubs were allowed to remain open, they're starting to see the light. They're starting to see the hypocrisy, and they're starting to understand that there's no one else to blame but the Democratic Party because they completely own California. And so that's definitely part. But of course, it's because of people willing to put out a platform to bring the message every day of truth, the statistics, and what's really driving the record homelessness, the wage gap between the elite in California and the poorest in California, and of course, the rising homelessness.
So if you had to, so now so our viewers know the next step because we have a lot of viewers that tuning in for the first time. So now that we have all those signatures, can you kind of walk us through what the next steps are going to be so people understand? Where are we in the recall in the timeline? What's next?
Yeah. So from what I understand, they still have to verify all the signatures. And if you actually go to Major Williams, I know he's running for governor of California. He actually has a way better spreadsheet and breakdown of what's supposed to happen next. But essentially, from what I understand, and please, anyone, feel free to fact check me. There needs to be basically a vote saying that we will be voting out Gavin Newsom, and there has to be an alternative candidate as well. So first and foremost, we need to make sure that all the signatures are verified. From what I understand, they do have. It seems like they're going to have more than enough to be able to verify it. Then there's going to be like a special election held. There's got to be like an actual Republican endorsed candidate that's going to be the alternative, and then people are going to decide: do I really want to vote this guy out, or do I not want to vote this guy out? And then, am I actually realistically going to be voting for the alternative, the Republican? And so there's going to be, some people are not that optimistic that the courts, especially in California, a lot of judges, a lot of the court systems are Democratic owned, right? So 2020, I believe just in LA County, this is not including the 50 plus counties that there are in California. In LA County alone, all the judges that ran for the LA courts, all of them were Democrats. All of them. There was not a single independent or a single Republican that ran as a judge for LA County. So again, this is something that a lot of people just don't know, that you actually get to vote in your judges. You get to elect those judges. And so that's why, to me, it's a little bit comical when I hear the left cry about systematic racism, when I'm like, literally, every system is basically controlled by the left and Democrats, including your judges. Black Lives Matter, they're out there chanting down with the system. Well, your system is being held up by even Democratic judges. You think that LA County is too harsh on the Black community? Well, guess what? Those are Democratic judges cracking down on the Black and brown community. So don't stand there on your high horse trying to say that it's the white system or the white man. But that's another case in point to be discussed. But some people are hopeful that we do have the signatures. Some people are not, because unfortunately the Democrats go everywhere from school boards to water boards to the judges, the courts, and it's going to be ultimately them to decide.
And how funny is that? That now they're crying for the to check each vote and all that, to count all the ballot. You know what I mean? How funny is that? But and also too, it was pathetic how Gavin Newsom, his excuse when he came out, he was trying to blame white supremacists or whatever. That's why they did it. That's why he got.
That's funny.
And that's how I posted. I'm like, what? We're thousands of Latinos right here at Lexit, and we've been pushing hard against you. So that's not what even Democrats are on it. But it was just hilarious on that. But go ahead, Ricardo.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's been interesting. It's been an interesting ride. But I was talking to my grandfather a few years ago about subjects like this, and he told me, he says, Mijo, obviously he's all hardcore Mexican. We're having this conversation in Spanish, and he says, it's not the truth that people believe. It's what they hear first that people believe. Mm-hmm. And that blew me away, because it's not people, I read a lot of books. I read books. Mark Twain, one of my favorite authors, says, he has a saying, says, it's easier to convince people. It's easier to fool people than to convince them they have been fooled, right? And so that's the crazy part of all this. It's people. It's not that people actually believe all the bullshit, or I refrain my words, but not to believe all the bull. I got to them before we did, and here we are trying to do a cleanup on a mess that we didn't make. But I appreciate you answering my question. I think that it's really important that people know where we are with the recall. But I did hear somebody told me that the Department of Justice, or somebody that's going to have to handle that, is one of his closest friends, one of Gavin Newsom's closest friends. The one's going to handle the recall, or has to look over it, is one of his closest friends. So, but at this point, let me ask you this. There's another question I have for you, Anthony. Do you think that at this point, I mean, it's so obvious everybody wants him out. Do you think they'll just bluntly sweep this under the rug, being that the whole state is watching this? Can they afford manipulation at this point?
Well, it's one of those things where if you control the entire system, it doesn't really matter what you do. I mean, 2020, we saw the obvious irregularities when it came to the voting system, right? And I think that at this point, especially in California, I mean, Gavin Newsom, a lot of people don't know that this guy is Nancy Pelosi's nephew.
Yes.
And so imagine your auntie is a Speaker of the House. She's third in line to become president if anything were to ever happen to Joe Biden. But you got one of the most powerful families, which is the Pelosi's and the Newsoms. If you look into that entire family, they basically own California, brother. And alongside with these extremely liberal and communist unions, to include the UTLA, it's one of those things where even if it's right in front of your face, the obvious manipulation, the obvious control, the obvious lying and blatant disregard for the justice system, it's like, well, who's going to come against you? who is powerful enough in California to really challenge Gavin Newsom and basically his authoritarian rule? I mean, the Senate is controlled by Democrats. Most unions are Democrat and help Democrats stay in office because it's all backdoor deals, right? The way they operate. Everything is you scratch my back, I scratch yours. That's the way it works. That's why Gavin Newsom is allowed to basically tell us peasants, you're not allowed to eat indoors. And then he's caught indoors without a mask eating at a fine dining facility. And not just with anybody. It's not just him and his wife and his children. It's with the top health experts of California. Legit, the president and vice president of California health experts, right? Organizations. So that is why they're allowed to do those things without any repercussion, right? There you have it, right there. 4 families, 3 generations. Brown, Pelosi, Newsom. Right there, right? There it is. That's how it's connected. So once you start understanding that these 4 families basically control all of California, that they have the unions backing them, that they fund all these Democratic judges in the court systems, it's basically like they create the reality they want, and they're able to control the media, the information, and then academia to make it seem like it's the Republicans' fault. You have to be a new hybrid of sheep. It's not enough to say sheep. You have to be like a super sheep, a super woke sheep to believe that anything going wrong in California is A, Donald Trump's fault, or B, a Republican's fault, because Republicans control zero in California, from the state assembly to the governorship to city districts, etc. There's small pockets. Sure, there's counties that they do have a Republican majority, and those are the better off counties, right? Like I live in a very conservative area, Valencia, Santa Clarita, Simi Valley. These are small pockets, right? San Bernardino, pretty conservative. Riverside, pretty conservative. Orange County, pretty conservative, right? Because these are here's a super sheep, right? There's a sheep, and it's got the flag there to make it a super sheep. But the matrix is falling apart for Democrats. People are unplugging. They're taking the red pill, and they're understanding. They're understanding that in California, there's been a one-party rule since basically the 90s, and that's why things are the way that they are.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So we're seeing that it's hard for Republicans to go against. Here in California, we're fighting against. My dad always. I asked my dad before he passed away. I said, "Why are we?" He goes, "Try to fight against somebody that's handing out free money. You're always going to want to go with the guy that's always handing out money. If you got 2 friends and one says, 'Hey, bro, come kick it with me tonight at my house,' and another friend says, 'I got you all night,' you're going to go with the friend that pays for most of the meals, right? That's just a given." Right. So even today, I seen that they were giving people that had EBT cards. Amazon Prime was giving them a discount because they have food stamps, so they get food stamps, right? So Latinos here in California, Latinos across the United States, how do we fight this? I know we had Donald Trump, right? That was a huge deal. Like we were like, look at Trump. People liked him before. People liked what he was saying. They liked the rawness of him. They just liked his character. He was no nonsense, that type of person. So now that we're Trump, we don't know if he's coming back, but how do we see till he does, or if he doesn't, how do Latinos, or how do we try to get Latinos to become conservative? Do we just say, look, there's the hypocrisy, or what's a good method to go about it?
Yeah, I think that definitely building platforms is a good way to do it. Convince everyone, your audience, that to please share the message. I think that the problem with a lot of Hispanics and Latinos is that we're very hypercritical of each other, and that we don't like to tune in. I've kind of received more support from outsiders of the Hispanic community than I have within our own, because for whatever reason it is, but I think that it is important to build the platforms to educate but we also have to engage the community, which is our community. We have to go into the community. And my question to the GOP and Republicans, with or without Trump, is what are you doing to use your platform to now reach the second largest voting demographic, which is Hispanics and Latinos in America? It's what are you using the GOP for? How are you targeting the communities? What information are you pushing out? What leaders within the communities are you reaching out to collaborate with, to put their message on a platform and be able to reach more people? And unfortunately, I just don't really see that, not just with the California GOP, but the GOP in general. You know, when 2020 came around, I noticed that a lot of people reached out to me because of my pretty big platform. And I remember having a lot more followers than Latinos for Trump, which was the official campaign for Donald Trump. And they reached out and they're like, hey, man, we really like your message. We'd like to work with you. And I was like,
you were just only posting selfies all the time.
And so they, to me, it was like, all right, great. I'd like to work with you guys. And then nothing ever happened. They never flew us out to events. I even told them, like, hey, can you guys at least like send me some merchandise? And I mean, I don't blame Trump. I blame whoever was in charge of that campaign, because they're trying to recruit Hispanics with large platforms, but then we did nothing with them.
Okay,
so
bro.
Go ahead.
Quick, that being said, because I'm going to forget what I want to say. Okay, so I talked to Jesse about this plenty of times. I see that the GOP, the Republican movement, are really quick to say, okay, brother Jesse, we like your movement. This guy has a big platform, but we just need the name. That's all we need. Just hand me Lexit. You guys stand in the corner. It's going to make me look good. But as far as really getting these people involved, like yourself, really getting it doesn't seem like you really want that. I remember having a live with Brandon Tatum, like during in March, when we were all like down, and I asked him that question because I told him, let's just be honest, bro. Let's just be honest. There's still some little bit of racism or whatever you want to call it in the Republican Party, or I would say us, our side, your side. How do we even like break those walls down? Do we just sit back and say, well, no, you're not going to have it because you're a rhino. I'm not going to give it to you. You're just a rhino and you're not doing nothing for us. Or do we accept all the branch just because this is all we got? That's where it becomes frustrating, because they are our representation. It's like me saying, Ricardo, go out there, be my voice. And then Ricardo goes out there, doesn't mention my name. And I'm like, hey, bro, you know what I mean? So to myself, it's like, you got like these people like Jesse, I remember when I got banned, you sit up there and was like, bro, shoot me your new Instagram. I got you. There's very few people that'll do this. Put you on a platform, your voice could be heard. And we see, especially on the big scale, like the rhinos or even people that are not called rhinos, they're just there. They're not willing to put, it's just them. And then you're way down there.
Yeah, you bring up a very excellent point, man. And one of the things that I notice is that people in power, and especially when they're making money, they want to stay that way. You know, they want to be the face of everything. They don't want to, what in their minds, what they've worked so hard for, they don't want to relinquish any of that for something young and fresh and bold and so outspoken. Because remember, the establishment exists on both sides. And I've always told people on my platform, I've never been a hardcore Republican. I don't consider myself a hardcore Republican. I'll call out Republicans the same way I call out Democrats. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. I'll call a spade, right? And so I don't have any problem with that. But the problem is that you have these people that are paid to get engagement, to get new people, etc. Their job is to attract, but if someone is a threat to them, they're not going to elevate them that much. All they need is that small little, we just need the hat. We just need this one person. We just need this one founder. We just need you to promote us on your page. That's all we need. And thank you for the follows. Thank you for your audience. You know, see ya. And so to me, there's kind of like this old guard versus the new guard. We are the up and coming. We are the community leaders. We are the doers. We are lions, not sheep. And the problem is we're not Republican enough for the Republicans. So they're not
Right.
going to bring us in because the Republican Party needs loyalties. They
Right.
need party loyalties that will never speak out against the Republican Party, even when they're wrong. Even when you have backstabbers like Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell, Marco Rubio, right? I don't care that Marco Rubio is Latino. If you're a backstabber, I'm calling you out. And so
Right.
the problem is with the DNC is that that's why you are not hearing AOC be so outspoken anymore, because she falls in line. They want to consider her this progressive new kind of leader. She's just as establishment as Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer is, because
Right.
she will fall in line for the sake of making her party look right. We are not like that. So the GOP doesn't hire us or work with us because we call out both sides. We're not loyal enough. But to go back to your question is, they'll still use us and collaborate with us because they know that we have the attention, the ears, and the eyes of the Hispanic community. They still need us. And so they'll work with us, they'll promote us, they'll collaborate with us, but they'll never put us in a position of power, because that means that's their job. That means that they are no longer needed. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I don't know if that necessarily answers your question.
No, it does.
But definitely it's not. I don't think that it's the GOP being racist. It's just that they really, really suck at getting rid of their establishment. And the progressives, the people like AOC, they kind of bulldoze their way in there. They had to do it the hard way, right? And so what you're going to have to do is we're going to have to bulldoze our way in there as well. We have to build our platforms. GOP or no GOP, we have to be the leaders and the face, because nobody really knows who the California GOP chairwoman is, except for the GOP. But Latinos and Hispanics, you ask them who that person is, they're like, I have no idea. We know who you are because you're a conservative. You speak truth. You make us look at things the way we've never seen things before. You bring information that's needed, but they don't know who the GOP is, but they'll follow them and they'll vote that way because of who we are and how we vote, right? So I think that this is something that I even posted today on Ana Paulina, where she posted a video saying, you know, Hispanic leftists, do you feel used yet? Do you feel like you've been lied to yet? Because that's exactly what happened after the photos were revealed of what's happening in these detention centers. But also my reply was, okay, yes, but what is the GOP doing? What is the GOP doing to promote the leaders of today, the new voices of Hispanic conservatives, Latino conservatives onto their platform? And the answer right now is nada, nothing. And so it's like all I can do is just be like, look, I didn't do this for the GOP. I didn't start this for them. I'm not fighting my fight because of them. I'm doing this for myself and because I care that my audience is informed. And I'm just going to have to continue to do what I do without the GOP. And if they're not willing to work with us, then don't be surprised when more Latinos and Hispanics, especially the new ones coming in through the border, are voting blue. Don't sit there with, you know, something in your hand, something very vulgar, you know. So don't sit there with your, you know, in your hand and then wonder to yourself, I don't get it. Why are these people voting blue? I don't understand. No, you do understand. You just don't want to relinquish that power, bro. You know? So
no, I think you're 100% right. And I always, you ever sit there sometimes and you know they're making the wrong decision? And you're like, hire me. What? Just hire me. I swear, you know. And I think that's what's frustrating, is because we sit back and I think what you said, it's a power grab, and they know that if they see somebody like Ricardo, I truly believe somebody like Ricardo right here, man, if they were to see somebody like him with the background and be like, okay, bro, we're going to throw you up there, bro, they would get millions of votes. They would get millions of votes, but they don't want that kind of power because they know it's kind of like Trump. You know, it's a certain club. Once he came in, it was like, okay, he didn't play ball. Now you got to go, bro. You know what I mean? You're out. You know, you're not playing ball with us. And I feel like that's what it is. It's a club that we're invited to the game, but we got to sit on the stands. We're not allowed to play. Yeah, you can
Right.
sit there and cheer, but you ain't gonna hit the home run. That's me. I'm gonna take that. So I think
Yeah.
it's frustrating. It gets a little frustrating, bro. But I always felt like that's why we should uplift people like you, get paid people like you on their pages and say, this is the person we want. This is the guy we want to be our voice. This is the platform that he has. I had a lot of respect for you. And then lately I seen you pushing back on certain stuff. And I thought to myself, I have more respect because, like you said, when the establishment expects you to nod your head and say yes, and sometimes you sit back and go, look, I don't feel like that's right. And everybody's like, ooh, that's unpopular. That's when you know somebody's being true to themselves, especially with Latinos, because, you know, we're competitive within ourselves. It's just in us to be like, I want to be first. But to me, what separates everybody is when they realize it's a game, and at the same time, I'm going to lift you up with me when I get there. To me, that's what I love people like Ricardo and yourself, bro. And I appreciate Ricardo. Do you have any closing words before we jam off?
You know, bro, I just wanna tell Anthony that like I said, I'm gonna give credit where credit's due, bro. I mean, you know, everything that you're doing is just incredible, bro. And just know that you have our support. We appreciate it. I just, you know, if you're on here, I know we have a few viewers. A lot of people are going to view this. You know, I just hope that you guys understand that as a like, you know, it's funny because a lot of people will say, tienes el nopal en la frente, right? Like, oh, you're Mexican. Are you? Well, the way we were raised God, family, country, right? Loyalty, love. Is the way that you're voting right now, is that showing you that? I mean, is it showing you that they're wanting to ban Christianity, you know, teaching our kids things that, and by the way, I respect the LGBT community. I have a lot of friends that are LGBT that are great people, phenomenal people. I love them to death. I have friends of mine that I consider brothers that are gay, sisters that are lesbian, that are like, but they have respect, and they don't lean to a certain way. They say, listen, this is my sexual orientation, but I'm never going to push it on you. Just like you're not going to push it on me. I can appreciate that. They're like, hey, listen, we respect the way you see it. And so there's so many of those too that are being left out. They're kind of stuck, right? They're like, well, we don't fully agree with, you know, and they're Christians. They're God-fearing, loving people, you know, and why something happens to us as humans, you know, I mean, here's a reality behind things. You know, if somebody is gay or homosexual, right? And people want to be harsh on them. There's a reason why they feel that way. There's something going on in their mind. I mean, who are we to judge them, right? I'm not going to sit here because I'm not perfect. I've done a lot of things that a lot of people were like, that's worse than being right than trying to judge somebody who doesn't have your same sexual orientation. So I'm not going to judge them, but I do want to say that no matter what, there's a lot of good people, and I do believe this on both sides. It's just everybody's just a little confused right now. And right now is a time where you don't listen to the media, right or left. You just go do your homework and you'll get the answer. We live in an era of smartphones and stupid people, right? And I just our brothers and our sisters are waking up. Whether you're Hispanic, whether you're Haitian, Jamaican, whatever race you are watching this, it doesn't matter. Just wake up. Go follow Anthony. Go listen to what he has to say. I like that he's a guy down the middle. I'm like that. I'm not like hardcore right and the hell with the left. No, I'm more like, hey, because by the way, let's not forget that the lifelong Democrats 40 years ago in the JFK era, it made sense to be a Democrat to a certain extent because they still love this country. So I believe that the hardcore leftists are hijacking the conservative Democrats because there is conservative Democrats, people that are maybe they're liberal a little bit on the fiscal side, but they like the Second Amendment, they like freedom of speech. Not all Democrats are like liberal, right? It's a lot of them are like, no. I've spoken to a lot of them like, Ricardo, no, I love this country. I don't want to get rid of your Second Amendment. I don't want to get rid of freedom of speech. I believe in your rights. So there is a lot of people, Democrats, that are good people that really want to see this country prosper, that believe in capitalism, don't like communism. So I think that if we could just meet in the middle, kind of like where you're at right now, like I'll call your bullshit whether you're Republican or Democrat, right? We need more people like that because both sides also have extremists that we don't agree with their views. And so, like I said, I just want to say that, brother. I just appreciate everything that you're doing for our people, for our community. You keep going at it. Know that you're supported by more people than you could think of, and you're followed by more people than you can think of. It would blow your mind if you actually realize. I think if you understood how many more followers you have that are not vocal about it, because I'm
right.
So that's what it comes down to, you know. And like I said, as Republicans, as conservatives, you know, I consider myself more conservative than anything. You know, it's not our place to judge people. I don't judge lesbian, gay, homosexual, atheist. I don't judge you because there's a reason why you think the way you do. Just like there's a reason why I think the way that I do. Let's just understand one thing. Let's come to an agreement that we live in the best country in the world and we have to save what's left of it. That's it. If we can just meet down that, and regardless of sexual orientation, religion, background, God-fearing, atheist, black, white, if we could just all understand one thing, we have to save this country from communism. We have to save this country from our people that are coming here to try to terrorize our country, that are trying to hurt us, that are trying to demolish us. If we could all come to that one common understanding, I believe that we're going to go very far as a united group. As like in Spanish, we say, un pueblo unido jamás será vencido. A united town will never be demolished. I'm a big believer in that. So a shout out to you, brother. I appreciate you 100%. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. Just know that you got our full support, brother.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and God bless everyone, you know, that's tuning in. And I appreciate, again, you guys have my full support, and I know I got yours. And let's just continue doing what's good for our community, man. That's the only way we thrive.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate it, bro.
All right. God bless you guys.
Have a good one, guys.